Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
First world, come in and take a seat. Pay us no attention, it's all conspiracy. We have satire and parody, some funny, some perverse. If none of it's offensive to you, you'd be the first.
Fairview's coffee has mysteriously gone missing. Mayhem ensues when strange, coffee-craving zombies plague the city. Detective Mickey Potatoes, an overworked public servant, uncovers why ordinary citizens are losing their minds and how to stop the coffee apocalypse. But it involves the mafia. And when you're dealing with mafia crime families, nothing is ever easy. The mafia controls everything in the city, including the police, including him. If he breaks the mafia, they will break him. So, the city is without coffee. The city is burning before his very eyes, but he's powerless. Detective Potatoes has the power to stop the coffee apocalypse, but if he does, he could lose everything.
till I die. And kill till I die.
The Madness Comic Network and Comic Related Madness proudly presents Madness Tuesday Morning Brew. Tune in to our content on Comic Talk with Pops Van Zant on YouTube.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday. I hope you brought your coffee. We got another good show today. It's been a crazy week since last week. So last week we finished up campaign number 3 for Path of the Pale Rider, and was smashing success. I had a good old time. So here's where we ended up. Issue number 3 with 118 backers. 130 some odd %. So things ended very well for us, and we're in that weird 2-week kind of window where we're waiting for the funds to come from Kickstarter, and then we can start moving forward. So my artists are ready. We've had some check-ins just to see where everybody's at, and then we're looking forward to hitting the ground running and making this issue. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for you guys to read it. There's been some more riddles that have been solved, so keep your eye out for these. If you are solving those riddles, you're going to get one of these in the mail. It has a message written by a character on the back. So 2 more of these going out today, so I'm excited for that. And that short film is still the thorn in my side. I'm working on it. I just have still those two shots left that are just so essential to the story. But the good news is when that's done, it'll be out quick. And I might as well just start on the next one because it's been taking me so long to get these things done. So we're just going to start shooting the next short film. Why not? But we have some other friends that have campaigns that are going right now. So I have my, there's an alien in my toilet shirt. I love it. Sam Vera's program, his campaign for his volume number 1 is going. There's 10 days left for you guys to get on that one. So still some time to pick up a physical. Now it's like this one and Carissa's are the 2 where it's like the most merch you can possibly pick from. They have a crazy wide variety of things I've never seen. And for Sam, he makes most of it himself. So he has all these really cool prints and little things that art-wise that he makes himself. Carissa, she has 21 days left to go. There's plenty of time to hop on this one. But again, same thing. Like she has so many options and merch and 3D prints and so much cool stuff. So you can really spend some time looking around those 2 campaigns and finding what you like. So go check those out. Make sure you support indie. Today I have another indie writer with myself. I love having writers on because it's like we sometimes don't get the spotlight, and it's usually all about the art. So it's great to have writers on so we can pick each other's brains and talk about the creative process for us. And then I just like having people on so I can see all the different stuff that's going on. Because sometimes you miss out if you're not aware of all the cool things that are happening in indie. So I'd like to introduce my guest today, Jeofrey Cotton, writer of multiple stories we're going to talk about. I got lots of questions to pick his brain. Hello, sir. Everybody say hello. Hello, Jeofrey.
Thanks for having me.
What?
Hang on one second.
All right, sorry.
Sorry, my dog was in my room. He's being annoying.
Yeah, his dogs are. It's always about them. Like me.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, welcome.
The stuff you showed early on to start everything off. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's like I've been looking forward to talking to you. What do you mean? Who dis? Where am I? Have some coffee and try again. Oh, good times. So Jeff, I became aware of you right at the end of your campaign for Awful Thoughts, and it amazing. I love horror and so many other genres that you do. And then you started sending me some behind the scenes, and I was just eating it up. So I was having a good old time reading some of the stuff that you sent me, and I was just like, yeah, Laurie, it's me. Yeah, that doesn't help, dude. This makes me laugh. So yeah, I'm so looking forward to getting that line. And then I'm interested in picking your brain on some of these other titles that you have and where they fall, and the whole process of are you writing all of these at the same time? You have 3 concurrent projects?
So it all started at the beginning of last year, basically, well, more so in the planning phase, a little bit earlier than that, actually. But Awful Thoughts is kind of evolved into what you saw at the end of the most recent Kickstarter. It was actually created and has 3 individual issues that released from all last year. And and so this new version here that you're looking at on the screen now is a kind of a soft reboot. There were multiple interior artists, and there were various things, that the lettering in particular. Just I've grown as a writer, and I letter all my own books, and I think I've gotten pretty efficient at that now as well, so I can deliver a more professional and streamlined product. And so this book is the culmination of all 3 of those issues, just kind of condensed and finely tuned into one 36-page book.
Okay, yeah, that's a whopper. It's bigger than your standard size.
Right.
And it's a collection of short stories, or?
Correct. And so this one will have Tom Cuthbert, is a good friend of mine, an artist. He's a tattoo artist from Alabama. And
Cool.
he's the one that kind of started all of this with me, and that I've done other projects and stuff with. We can talk about later on as well. And but he did this cover, and then he's the main artist. He had the most short stories of all the art between the 3 issues. So I decided to take I wanted to have just one interior artist for this project in particular. So I took all 6 of his best stuff. I think it might have been just 6, maybe 7. But either way, I took only his stuff. And but there were other artists that came along and helped out too. And but yeah, so this is all his stuff. I think that I forget. I just lost my train of thought. But I didn't really.
Here's some obviously not for the faint of heart. So
yeah,
adult.
So these are all self-contained stories. They're just kind of modern suburbia, dark, weird shit that I think about, and just I decided to put out there. I loved Dean Koontz, Stephen King, Robert McCammon, all those guys, especially their short stories. Those are a little more obscure. Yes. Some of them are extremely weird and dark. Dean Koontz has one called Kittens. It's not for the faint of heart, but if you've ever read, if you want to read some really off stuff, that's kind of what this is inspired by. It's like a 6-page story, and it'll blow your mind. It's just like, why would you put that on paper? You know what I mean? This is really disturbing
sometimes
stuff.
That's where your mind goes.
But I really
my comic too, where it's like people are like, really? And I was like, it needed to come out.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. Maybe it's a subconscious way of kind of getting that stuff out, dealing with different things. Maybe, and I think a lot of people's artwork, you'll see it kind of come out like that, and you can kind of see where people's minds are at and whatnot. And I've got other upbeats, plenty of upbeat stuff. But at the time, I love horror. Horror is
not it.
Yeah, horror is a great outlet though, and it's you can do stuff that you normally wouldn't be able to, and have fun with it. These are all just little stupid, crazy they're all inspired by like Tales from the Crypt and Creepshow and Tales from the Dark Side. But I mean, a couple of them people might be like, oh, that's weird. You know what I mean? So hey, that's fine though. That's what I'm going for.
Right.
And I really enjoyed putting it together, and hopefully the support seems to be there, but I would need, in the past, I've had to pay for art up front. So I'm in a process now though, where I'm getting a better relationship with these artists, and they're willing to do quid pro quos type of stuff where we can pay out on the back end. And that way I don't have to go and spend a whole lot of money. Because for those of you that may not know, it costs quite a bit to put one of these together. And if you want to a nice product, you know, and a lot of time and moving parts. And so that's a whole part of the process too, is having to learn how to do all of that. And so now, you know, with this Awful Thoughts, again, it's just a culmination of all that hard work and learning from last year. And it's just a much better product compared to the other 3 books that were its predecessors. And that's just one project. So there's 2 more one's about to launch on Kickstarter, and another one is about to print as well. It was on Kickstarter before Awful Thoughts. So.
Now this one, I love this page because it reminds me a lot of Saw.
Yeah, it's kind
of
one
where they were kidnapping people with a pig mask, and that was terrifying.
The artist, I love the first Saw movie, and I love some of the other ones too. It kind of tapers off, you know, along the way. That's what happens when you make 10 movies or whatever, though.
Well, and I mean, that's also what happens when Hollywood gets involved. That first raw, emotional movie that's the vision that the director had. That's the meat and potatoes. And then Hollywood kind of comes in and says, let's do it again, and let's do it again, and and it's like, that wasn't the intention. And a lot of times it gets, you know, muddled after that.
But there's a lot of inspiration from Hellraiser and Clive Barker, and just I've been reading and watching horror related stuff my whole life. I love it. So, you know, the blood and gore and just the stuff that really challenges you psychologically and makes you kind of stop and kind of people consider off-putting, or just some stuff is, you know, and then there's don't get me wrong, there's some stuff that'll make my head turn too, that I'm just like I don't want to watch that. You know what I mean? But I like
when they put kids in the story and you're like, no.
that gets a little dark. So, you know, and I've got some of that. I'll be the first to tell you there's some of that in there, but
I mean, the trailer for the new Evil Dead Rising, I was like, oh no, there's kids.
That movie looks insane.
That one looks really good, doesn't it? I'm excited for that one.
I've heard good stuff about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd love to.
All those Clive Barker, Stephen King, Dean Koontz, all of those. And that you're speaking my language. So
I like what you do with the short film stuff. That's kind of what I want to get into, and what I ultimately imagine these projects or stories, you know, at least one of them could maybe become one day like some kind of legit, you know, movie or TV series. That'd be so awesome to be able to sit, you know, you can probably relate, you know, sitting on the set of a movie studio, like watching your characters be like made manifest in front of your eyes, and like
it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty trippy.
I've written some stuff for production, and we filmed a series of mine. We filmed the pilot for this series called The Agency. And so it's, you know, when you write it on paper and you're fleshing these characters out, and then to see actors like take on that personality that you created is really bizarre to see it all come, you know, to fruition. And that was just a like out of body experience when I was with the film crew, and they were like, how you feeling, Laurie? And I was just like, this is weird.
A little strange, but cool.
Right? It's a little strange to see it all like come to life. But I mean, it's the same thing when you write a script and then you see an artist flesh it out on paper. It's like, wow, this is really cool to see Big James stand up and rip someone's face off. I haven't seen, you know what I mean? So it's fun. It's fun to play in the different mediums and to see where you can push your story to next.
Right.
I love that.
So this cover that's on the screen right now is one that was inspired by I think it's called True Crime Stories, the EC Comics, like an old golden age stuff, that pre-code stuff. They could get away with anything, you know, before the comic code came around, and really cool stuff. And then but after I did the first Awful Thoughts book, things started going pretty good, and I got contracted to do some more short stories for a video game / metaverse / cryptocurrency type of company.
What? That's crazy.
It was a startup. Yeah, it was a startup thing that just kind of popped out of nowhere. My buddy hit me up that I was buying new comics from, and said, hey, these guys, you know, yada, yada, yada. And so me and Tom, the guy that did this cover here and that helped me with Awful Thoughts, we tracked out and did a couple of short stories for them. And I'll send you the links. They're very primitive compared to what we've accomplished in the last year, but they're still really cool. And they were meant to be designed to be standalone. I was going to help these guys world build some characters. They have what's called Helsing, and they wanted to use like the fictional Van Helsing type of theme character with vampires and make him like a little 8-bit hero and insert him into this world and have people go around and if they pay to get into this, I guess somehow it connected to crypto and it was multimedia. It was they wanted to do big stuff with it. I'm not sure what became of it, but I haven't heard from him. I know crypto hasn't been doing as nearly as hot as it was back at that time.
Yeah. Interesting though. I mean, it's always interesting to see when, when someone is trying to push into a different genre, it's like mixing genres, but
yeah, it was cool.
Medium.
They were it was supposed to be the video game deal. And then the bonus levels you would go into, or you could access different periods in time on the timeline for these Hellsing Chronicles. And so I was tasked with, where me and Tom were tasked with creating this section of their media pool called the Legionnaire Files. And it was just going to be little 6-page, like an anthology that would be built out over time. But like, I guess for whatever reason, probably I would assume the budget probably wasn't there. They were paying us pretty good for just a little 6-page short story, in my opinion.
Well, and a lot of times people need to utilize writers like yourself to flesh out their world. And
and so they had we made it for them, and they got to keep all the rights. And I'm jealous of that because a couple of those things we did are like really cool. And
I know it's like I created this cool thing. It doesn't belong to me anymore. But I mean, that's what artists do all the time for us too. Like, I did all this cool work, and I'm like, I could do whatever I want with these images.
It's funny though, like how manifestation works and having a positive attitude and sending out good vibrations and stuff. When I first got into all of this, and after Awful Thoughts was accomplished, I started to kind of fantasize and think about the scope of what could become. And my first idea was like, if I could work for Marvel, if I could do any comic book related character like right now, or what's the really cool story I would like to see done my way. And it was Blade that I landed on for whatever reason. Of all the characters, it's just, I don't know, I love Vampire Hunter, and Wesley Snipes just crushed it in those movies.
That first one was mind-boggling.
Oh,
and especially because he did all his own stunts. They were so good.
I've got a short story in the Awful Thoughts called The Artist, and it's heavily inspired by that opening scene in Blade. It's really cool.
Yes.
The one with the pig mask guy, that's called The Artist, and it's cool. You'll see. So, but the so anyways, about the manifest, just a weird, strange occurrence and stuff that I see more and more lately. So I started thinking about that. I was like, Blade, that'd be cool. Lo and behold, these guys come around with this assignment for creating this Legionnaire Files. And so we did a detective guy at first, kind of like a, and they're kind of manga inspired too. They had that kind of Eastern style art, but with like an American anime kind of look, And so we did a detective one, but right about that time, I got the chance to do another one. And so we did a Futurescape one called Neon, and Neon was an acronym for New Earth or Nothing. And it was all about a futuristic Blade type of hybrid vampire guy that was getting revenge on future Dracula who lived in Las Vegas. It was so cool. And so it was like Judge.
Of course, live in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the new Judge Dredd movie or Raid Redemption, where they have to like climb the tower to get to the top half. That's kind of how this whole deal was premised and stuff. And my guy, like, he had been experimented on. He was just called number 6, I think, or something. And he's got these like wings that expand, and he jumps across the building and bursts in and kicks some ass. And then this elevator unloads, and it's got all these enemies, like a Double Dragon game, and then it just ends. And so those were a lot of fun, and that'd be great to expand on again. But we got the chance to do that, and I did that with Tom. And then at that time, another friend of a friend came along, and he wanted to create a story about a Puerto Ricana, a little teenage Puerto Rican chick that was like from kind of not impoverished area, but area that was heavily controlled by like cartels and stuff like that. And she was gonna fight back, and she was gonna become the Dove, or what we call La Paloma. And so we got to do 3 of those. It was called Birds of a Feather, and it was a black and white book. And ultimately, the interest just wasn't quite there. I don't know if I had time to promote it or if I promoted it properly, but the funding just kind of wasn't there. We were hoping that each Kickstarter would lead and fund the other one, but it just didn't transpire that way. And so my partner and myself as well, we're having to put a little more money than we wanted to put into it beyond that point. So it's capped. It capped and kind of left open-ended after the 3rd issue. And then at that point, me and him were going to do this End of Man book, which I'm about to relaunch on Kickstarter now. And so me and my buddy, he's going to get the co-creator credits for helping me form this idea, but this will just be my endeavor at this point now, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's my first trip off into the sci-fi realm.
Yeah, I was like, what's the synopsis of this? Because this is not horror, correct?
No, it's got some body horror and stuff, but nothing nothing weird or grotesque or violent or anything being outside of, like X-Files or something, like a PG-13. This would be more for my teenage to adult audience. This isn't strictly for mature audiences and stuff. So and there's a lot of cool stuff.
When I saw this, I was getting like, remember when there was, the year, whenever there's movies, there's always two that come out that are very similar.
Yeah, usually so.
Impact and what was the one with Bruce Willis? I forget. But that's what I thought of. I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna get creamed by an asteroid." That's what's
Armageddon. Bruce Willis. Yeah,
Armageddon. Thank you. Yeah, but then I saw this one, not this one, this one, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know."
Yeah, that one's really cool. Again, Tom Cuthbert did that one for me, and
did it 3 different ways, and they're all amazing.
Yeah, so we got the trade dress. I actually have a metal cover for that one too. That's super limited, but I'm not going to offer that on Kickstarter. I'm only going to have a few left because what I did was last year in October is when we tried to get this one going, and we were going to do it privately, just private sales, and did that at the same time as Awful Thoughts #3. And there was some limited success. We didn't make nearly as much as I was hoping to make back in order to get them both going. Like, wanted to try to do stuff outside of Kickstarter, but I'm just not ready yet. You know what I mean?
And I think that's the challenge. Is like Kickstarter is great for helping to fund indie projects. We always are trying to get ahead of the Kickstarter. We're always trying to get additional funds to put into the project so we can go quicker, turn it around. But it's like, how do I get off of this Kickstarter merry-go-round sometimes where it's like, there's got to be another way.
Right.
And that's kind of the question where we all get stuck is, how do we ultimately fund these projects? And if, because the way that I do it is I'll produce like the 4 interior pages in the covers prior to the Kickstarter. So we usually have like 4 pages interior, and then the rest of it, the Kickstarter has to fund the rest of the issue. So I'm using that Kickstarter to do that issue. And when we get extra funds, usually it'll go towards, either going, the next few pages of the next one or going back and coloring. Like our issue #1 was black and white. We want to do color. A lot of people pay out of pocket and then use the Kickstarter to reimburse themselves. I've seen that way. There's just a lot of different methods. But you, with so many moving parts, I don't know how you keep them all straight.
This one is actually, the artwork is completed, and my writing and lettering process is probably very bizarre compared to like traditional approach. We can talk about that. I'm curious to know how you do that. But
yeah, because I'm the letterer for my project as well. So
cool. So we can talk about that in a little bit too. That'd be interesting to know how your process is. Because
so you're the one that's coming to Kickstarter is #2.
This is the one right here. This is End of Man #1. It'll be launching. It's either the 4th or the 5th of May. I'll have to double check. I'm fairly certain it's the 4th. So it's right around the corner. And really cool thing about this one is, so there are people that pre-ordered. They're on ice. Everybody's good on that front. But now we're going to try to get it to a wider audience and generate a little more funding so we can do a little bit more with it. You know what I mean? Because what ultimately happened was it got done and did okay, but it was black and white. Most importantly, aside from not having as much money as we would have liked to have had, we were almost there, but not quite. It was all black and white, and it didn't quite. I just was, when I looked at it, I was like, man, the art's cool, but I want to see this thing like fully colored and what it could really be, And so, sure enough, so set back out and found a colorist, and so now that process is just kind of grinding along. He's overseas, and he's got about half of it colored. So I was hoping to have a little bit more by now, but either way, it should be good to go by the time the project's
Oh yeah, it'll be
funded.
done by the time the campaign is over.
Yeah,
so
and
that
it
way,
doesn't.
as soon as people's funds clear and you get the the Kickstarter, it's like you can just start fulfilling, which
Right.
is cool.
And it doesn't take me long to write them once I sit down and actually do it. The process is with the lettering is working those two things together. Freestyle is challenging, but so I'll usually go and put some placeholders in and just kind of wing it, be like, this looks good here, this looks good here, this sounds good. And then I'll go back countless times checking for grammatical errors, making sure everything is spaced and placed and each one has the right number, drop shadow in Adobe Photoshop. Like there's a lot of crap it goes into that.
Dude.
And then you get them printed, you get a proof copy back and you're like, shit, there's a
I know.
you know what I mean? Like
it's like you go through it 80,000 times.
Oh my God.
I have an editor and she still is like, did you mean to do this? And I'm like, nope. Go fix it. It's only so many times you can look at it because I feel like with us, it's like, what you're trying to say. So your brain sees what you are trying to communicate instead of what's actually on the page, which might be misspelled or grammatical error or, for me, everything went through, but then it's like, I went outside of the bleed and I was like, no.
Yeah. That's been a challenge too, is working with the bleed and I've gone back and forth with them as far as the page dimensions and
yeah,
you just got to trial and error. Cause if you use like borders on your books and stuff, then it can trim into those, or if the lettering's too close, yada, yada, yada. So I always try to keep the lettering away. And I've been trying to use solid borders, even at the expense of maybe looking a little unorthodox sometimes on the, we'll see. I'm excited about the product that I'm about to start getting printed, and Awful Thoughts will be the first one. We hit the funding goal. So I promised everybody that bought a virgin cover of cover A that we get some spot foil, like maybe some refractive foil, or I'll look into see what I can do, but it ought to look really cool. And I don't think a lot of people got those. So I'll have some of those for people when they come out. And then so that one's exciting. And then Roseville, aside from End of Man, we'll get into that too. I've got another horror book, but End of Man though, you were asking about the synopsis earlier, and so it's set in North Texas, like by Denton. I wanted to use.
That's where I am.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say you're close, right?
I'm right there.
I wanted to use UNT as like my main background because they have a big observatory center, and it's thick in the hill country there, and some. The countryside, and I bet a lot of people go out there and stargaze and just different stuff like that. It seemed like a good place to do my story, so it's set there. But I can't really use any of the actual NCAA, the collegiate stuff, so it's all kind of like reworded and stuff like that. So Patricia Bays is the protagonist.
Yeah.
And, her and her father are stargazing one night. She's an aspiring astronomer. Trying to walk in the footsteps of her father, who is a retired astronomer. And they're just looking at stars one night, and an asteroid, meteorite, whatever you want to call it, meteor comes crashing down right by them. And they're okay. Father gets knocked down. She gets up. She helps. She makes sure he's okay because he's handicapped and he's disabled from a car crash that they were all in. Several years before. I don't want to get too far off topic, but
no spoilers.
I don't want to. So I'll leave it at that. But anyway, so she runs off and she encounters this meteorite in the ground, and it drastically alters her life, for better or for worse.
I'm always, my brain is looking for riddles and hints and clues. And you have not only put the title here, but you've given us these symbols.
Yeah.
Am I reading too far into this, or is there meaning behind these?
I want there to be, but I could not quite figure out how to go about it. But I like your thinking, and I noticed you have like those little riddles and stuff. You have all kind of fun little things like that for people to do. And so that was my hope. I mean, maybe this is going to be a 3-issue series. So that could very well maybe translate into something in a future issue or anything. But right now there's no immediate plans. I just thought it was a cool aesthetic. It worked good for, the size.
Like constellation symbols.
Yeah. Some kind of, maybe I was thinking like alien code language or some kind of like
stars. That'd be really
kind
cool.
of cosmic.
It's like I don't know what to like the Big Dipper and like Orion, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Up
they've
against
got
the
that.
sky, it looks like constellation.
They do.
Yeah. Remember what movie was that? The one with the portal that like Egypt and they had like the
Oh,
Stargate.
Stargate. Yeah, that's
That's
a
what it
cool one.
reminds me of.
They do, yeah, they do.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I was going for. I just don't really have a plan for what I want to do with them yet. But because of the fact that they're all easy for me to re-access and then to manipulate because they're in Photoshop
Yeah.
text, I can do some fun stuff with them. Maybe even do some 3D digital printouts or something neat like that, and they can connect to the story somehow. But not at this time. I just thought they
Let's
looked cool.
brainstorm. I'm full of
Yeah,
ideas.
giving me some good ideas.
It was like, I got all sorts of ideas for you.
But the first issue, it'll deal with her experiencing that encounter and then the early after effects of what's happening in her life as it starts to build towards some more extreme, situations and stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, again, I encourage, anybody from teenagers up, it's not graphic or super violent or anything like that. There is some profanity and stuff. It's just the way I talk. It's kind of worked itself into my writing. So I try not to be too vulgar. Too many cuss words feels lazy and stuff. So I try, again, that's part of the process. So when I letter, it's all, I have an idea, right? So I'll storyboard all of the art. I'll get the idea for the story and I'll kind of do stick figures and I'll give good descriptive narratives as best as I can to the artist for what I want them to do. So then they'll come back. They'll usually come back with, their sketches or anyway. And so they'll return. They'll bring the art back. We'll make sure it's good to go. And once they send me the final art, then I'll start going on Photoshop and doing the lettering. And
what
I've heard
format of script do you use? Do you use comic book style, page one, panel one? Do you do like I use movie script?
That's the thing. I don't. What is that exactly? Is that another program, or are you talking about like a particular format, or what exactly?
I use like if you were to read the script for one of the Marvel movies, how they lay out their scripts. That's how I write.
Okay. Other
people use just regular format, or there is an actual like comic book where it's like title, page one, panel one, and it gives a description of the action, and then it gives like dialogue, and then panel two.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like to do my stuff is it all has a kind of a streamlined look, and I change the fonts and this different stuff throughout each of the books for now. But I do a very standardized kind of. I've got my narrating boxes, and they vary in size, and then I'll have my speech bubbles. But I just freestyle it all. I don't actually put anything. Yeah, anything to paper or nothing. So like, see this page right here? Yeah. I'll go on there and I'll be like, okay, the meteor is coming down. They're looking up. It's gonna that page right there won't have a whole lot of dialogue. I'll just try my best to do some sound effects and make some cool, looking fonts and stuff and explosions, and then give some context with some narrating boxes. But I have no idea where they're gonna go right now. But I know I've learned a lot recently. Shout out to my buddy SK. He's a professional letterer that does a lot of. I met him through an Australian indie comics group, and he's well entrenched over there, and he gave me a lot of really cool advice and help in developing my lettering skills. And so it sounds simple enough, but a very good base to work with for anybody that's wanting to get into lettering comics or getting better is top to bottom, left to right. You know what I mean? And so everything needs to.
That I forget. Sam Vera actually recommended it. Something box.
And there's nowadays they've got templates and stuff, and they've got programs you can put your stuff all in there. But there's
a website that will go through the actual like rules, like things that you should follow, like how much space between the lines, how many words on each line. Cool. What do you do when the bubble is too close to the edge? How do you tackle that? Not covering as much of the art as possible. How to space them so that way it flows naturally.
Yeah,
like said,
not covering the art.
Right, top to bottom.
Not covering the art is a big one that I've had to learn and figure out how to do, and gotten good at that. And then, but yeah, I have a speech bubble font package that I purchased early on. I'd like to find more of them, but this one is pretty well equipped, and I've learned how to get better with each of them. But none of them have quite that none of them can do the super elaborate multi-bubble connecting stuff. So
No, I just usually make my own bubbles. I'll do my
yeah,
own.
you draw them yourself.
I do all the bubbles myself. And the interesting thing for me is like, even though I write the script, Marco and I have a conversation about where the words are going to be.
Mhm.
But sometimes, you know, when you have a movie, because I write screenplay,
Mhm.
you can have as much time as you want to say as much as you want to.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing when it doesn't all fit. So the
Mhm.
great thing about me also being the letterer is I can be like, okay, this is too much. It's
Right.
too much. And
Right.
I can reword it or change things around.
Mhm.
And I'll go back and I might change things 2 and 3 times.
Right.
There was a poker game in my issue number 2, and I had no dialogue that I had pre-written. So once Marco had it on the page, I could go around and play with where they were like insulting each other across the table back
Right.
and forth.
Uh-huh.
So like I would do it and I would like send it to my editor and I'd be like, do you like this? And she's like, yeah, but it doesn't quite, you know, flow. I'd be like, all right, let me go play with it. So I think about it and I change it again. But at least I'm not slowing anything down. And the nice thing is I'm not asking a letterer to constantly change things.
Oh yeah, it would
right?
be it'd
How
be
annoying would
impossible.
that be? They would hate me. Where I'd be
No,
like, no, I don't like that. And they're like, but this is your script. I'd be like, I don't like it, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the
people
cool
would-
things about being your own letterer is being like, okay, I can manipulate this as many times as I need to
yeah.
make sure that it makes sense. It flows nicely. You know,
Mhm.
when your editor is like, hey, you missed a comma, you can just go put it in as opposed to being like, dear professional letterer, I know
Right.
you're on another project. Can you please go to page 12, panel 3, and insert a freaking comma for me? You know what I mean?
See, but you've got so yeah, I'll just kind of wing it, just like you said, and I'll put stuff in place, and then as you pace the story out and you
Yes.
provide context with the narration and you add dialogue, and you don't want dialogue to sound too cliche
Hokey.
or too corny or anything.
Yeah.
And it has to be right, you know, and so that takes time to go. You'll have to go back if once you get 2 or 3 pages consecutively done, got to go back and read it all. Make sure you didn't preface the narrating box with the same thing 2 or 3 times in a row, like, you know.
Yeah, I don't
the way that you
narrate.
structure your sentence and stuff, it has to all kind of have its own individual flow.
Yeah.
And it has to be organic. But to get there, though, I like to think of it a lot like a sculpt, like a big block of stone, and we're kind of hacking away at it, chiseling away and making this piece of art out of it. And it just takes a lot. Not everybody, some people can get to it a lot quicker, but for me, it's like you said, an editor or somebody like that, like if I couldn't get a job with Marvel or DC, because I'd just be like, I have to have complete creative control because I'm going to want to change this shit like 1,000 times.
Well, that's why you want to look at someplace like an Image instead of Marvel. DC, who's going to take ownership of a portion. Image is 100% creator owned. So I think that's kind of like where we would all love to be, but
it'd be fun.
They get so many, so many pitches. It's just like, you're lucky if they even look at you.
The great thing though about this day and age, and what we're able to do with Kickstarter and the community and just working hard is that we can make these things and they can be successful and they don't have to be big, huge endeavors, and we can get them in shops just the same as Marvel or DC or anything. And if we want to go that route, or we can even get, you can do Substack and get digital subscriptions and all sorts of just different.
Yeah. Have you posted yours on like Webtoon and Global Comics?
No, not yet. I haven't got into that yet.
I posted my number 1 on both of them just to see how it would go. So I haven't uploaded issue number 2 yet. There's always like 3 million things you can work on outside of actually writing, where it's like, oh, are you advertising? Are you marketing today? Or are you working on your website? Or are you setting up interviews? Or
So for me, with all of that in mind, I also my full-time job is comic books too. I clean them. I clean them and press them. I buy them, I sell them, I trade them, I submit them for grading for people. All sorts of really cool stuff from people from all over the country. And I also what was I going to say? No, that's all inclusive. So, but yeah, so that's all that stuff, like selling them on Facebook and getting all of them prepared and purchasing them and then and then working on them for people. I have 5 machines that I'm doing full time. You know, it's like a laundromat over here. They're t-shirt.
How do you press a comic book?
Well, the first I dry clean it, and I'll get it. If there's any dirt on the surface and
Wait,
stuff.
how do you dry clean a comic book?
So, it sounds like more elaborate than it is. Basically, a cotton swab. I use it. And then an art eraser is a very good one to use. In particular, you can use different erasers, but some of them will pull off the gloss. And art erasers work really well. And then so what'll happen is I'll dry clean it all. I'll clean it all off with the cotton swab, and then I'll do some erasing on it and get anything white. It can't erase on color. So I'll get that. I can make backs of books that are real dirty and gross. I can make them look real pretty, and that helps them improve their quality, their value from majority of the time. And then whenever after that, then there's a process of exposing them to a little bit of humidity sometimes, where they'll kind of sit in a like a Tupperware tank, and they'll just get vapors from distilled water, and it'll kind of soak into the pages a little bit. And then I'll put it in a t-shirt press, and I'll get dividing paper, magazine boards, and cardstock, and iron SRP paper, like wax paper there's all sorts of buffers for it. And then the last step is these aluminum plates that I have that those create this, and then you put the press down on that and heat it up to a certain temperature and time, and that book will sit in there for about 24 hours, and it should look nicer not 9 times out of 10, but just depends on the defects, the severity of what's going on. If I can, and then people will send them to me, and they'll be like, "Hey, I want this to, I'm trying to get it graded to like a higher grade, and they want to submit it." And that's where I come in at, or just to help expedite that process. A lot of people want to get their books graded, but it's hard to trust people with that kind of stuff. I mean, I have people send me books that are worth thousands of dollars, and they don't know me from Adam. It's just word of mouth now. I've been doing it for quite a while, and very visible. And then that's what kind of paved the way for me to get into making my own comics. And I had my buddy Trey Antley and then Tom Cuthbert. They're both really good friends that tattoo together in Alabama. Trey was buying books from me in my private group. I have little claim sales. I've been doing that for a couple years now. I saw his artwork. I was like, man, that's really cool, man. And so we just kind of started spitballing, and that's how Awful Thoughts happened. And then Trey stepped away after the first book, and so we just kind of kept it going and slapped it together until we got through 3. And now I've decided, okay, let's just focus on having this just be me and Tom's project. And so that's why it's gotten this reboot sort of treatment. So
I mean, I feel you. There's pros and cons to having multiple people involved, right?
Yeah.
Because when you have multiple people involved, you can go faster if everybody works together. Ideally, they all work together.
Right? Everybody works together.
Communication is good, right? Everybody is working together in a timely fashion. But when 2 of you are working and the other one is on another project, and then you got to wait for that third person to become free. So then it's you're dealing with more schedules, you're dealing with more personalities. There's more moving parts, so there's more room for error, when you add more people. So it's difficult. So it's you got to find that works for your project and for your team. We just added a colorist for this issue, so we're excited to have her on board so we can pick up some steam. So, but again, it's now you're dealing with another person, but she's wonderful. So I think I would. It's gonna go great.
Fingers crossed. So to cap off End of Man though, so that first issue is going to launch here in the next week or so, and then it'll coincide with Free Comic Book Day. I've been invited to go out and appear at Comics Cafe, which is out here in Tomball, just on the outskirts of Houston. It's basically Houston area. It's just a little more rural. It's right off the highway. You know what I mean? It's 10,000, 20,000 people or something. So they've got a really big comic shop out there. My buddy Darren runs it. And they've got coffee and pastries and snacks. They got D&D stuff. They got games, tabletop stuff, and a big old comic book selection. So they're going to do Free Comic Book Day like everybody else out there. And he invited me to come out and to sign stuff and to meet with people. And it'll be a lot of fun. I don't have any old inventory because, again, hearing what you've heard now, I'm just kind of trying to wipe the old stuff away, awful thoughts,
Right. And revamp,
and
refresh.
birds of a feather, just kind of restructuring. So my whole new flagship unload will be just these new 3 titles, and we'll get to Roseville in a second. That's the 3rd of them. But yeah, just awful thoughts, the new reboot, End of Man, which is launching soon, and then Roseville. And so I won't have any of those available yet, but I'm going to take some QR codes on some cards with, I've got business cards, and try to network with people. Anybody that has books that they've purchased from me that happens to be local, that wants to bring them that weren't signed, that I'll be happy to sign them, remark them, whatever, for free. And then Darren said, and then I'll have a tablet there, and I'll have some mock-up pictures of my covers, like mock-up covers, to let people know what's on the way. And then
You can always do some prints, Jeofrey.
yeah, possibly. I don't know if I have enough time though. I guess I could if I put a rush on it, but I've got. I was thinking about maybe doing something, trying to get something out there.
I just did a small order of just 4x6 prints of all the covers that I have, because sometimes people want something that it's out of print. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't always reprint my variant covers from previous issues, but they can get like the 4x6 of it.
Yeah, then get a piece of art for it at least.
Box and
Yeah. So but I'll have a tablet, and it will be able to like show in real time, like, or just show the Kickstarter. They can demo and go through it and see the Kickstarter on my tablet. And then if they want, not necessarily from my tablet, but if they just show that they back the project while they're in the store, Darren's also going to offer an additional discount on anything they buy that day at Free Comic Book Day. So that'll be a lot of fun. I don't know what the discount is yet. We're still ironing out the details, but it's a lot of fun. And then, not to get too far ahead again, but Darren at Comics Cafe introduced me to a new artist friend named Z. And he goes by Suplex Chewy on Instagram, if y'all want to check it out. He's an artist.
Best name ever. Sorry.
Nice, cool. Yeah, he's an artist out here. And again, he was gracious enough to work a quid pro quo type of deal with me. And we're going to be able to do my second sci-fi project in the fall. It should start getting maybe some announcements and stuff. And that one's very near and dear to my heart, because a friend of mine that I came up with this idea. It's like a future Gears of War type of deal, like in the distant future, different planet and stuff. And like a space epic.
Gears of War.
Yeah, like
my husband always made me play, and I sucked at it, but I was like,
it's so
my
much
job
fun.
was just to go revive him when he got hurt.
I forgot. Yeah, they have the revive technique. I forgot about
Right?
that. That game was so fun though. I love the aesthetic of it and the locust horde and all that. So, but
you gotta have the chainsaw gun.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Right?
My buddy Steven, though, rest in peace, he's not with us anymore, and we came up with that idea together, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see it finally come to fruition. He was an artist, and we'd always get together and brainstorm, but then we'd wind up, having, when I was drinking and drugging and stuff back in the day, we'd wind up partying too much, and we'd never accomplish much, but he would come up with some sketches, and we had this core idea. So
that's where all the good ideas come from.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then you got to sober up and actually do them.
at its core, it's solid. We've got this little group of like special operative guys called the Hellcats, and we'll basically, like aliens and stuff, we'll follow them around as they go, and they're trying to figure out who these people that are attacking them are, and trying to go behind enemy lines and shut operations down to make it, just trying to uncover this secret about who this this shimmering scourge from above is, that's come to their planet. And it'll be a lot of fun. It's gonna, hopefully we'll have a lot of action and stuff, and it'll be funny and kind of over the, over the top in some areas. And each of the Hellcats will have their own distinct skills and sets and aesthetic. And I think I'm going to do like a little 3D printed miniature for the Steven character. Steven's character, my buddy, is based on, there's another character, one of the Hellcats is like him, you know what I mean? His personality, like to the T. So that guy, maybe we'll do like a 3D printed mini of Steven's like guy, you know what I mean? It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. So that one though is just in the very early stages. Me and Z have just recently started doing some concept sketches, and we're building it from the ground up. And as you may know, like doing stuff where there's no frame of reference other than other people's imagination, like sci-fi future weapons and armor, and like if you're trying to ground it in reality, like what would be going on in 150 years or 200 years? Hell, I have no idea. So let's just kind of do it as best we can, have fun with it, try to keep it a little grounded, but we can do some fun stuff too.
That's
But
the best part.
you know,
Because then
what'd
you
you
can
say?
really go anywhere, you know what I mean? And then it's just
Yeah,
like, okay, but it makes sense to the story. You want it to be related to the story, but it's like exploring, okay, what would weapons look like? What would food look like? What
right.
would
So
politics look like? You know what I mean?
that's where we're at right now with that. And he's busy too. He's got some other endeavors, but he's super excited. So this is the first time I've told anybody about that publicly. So that's really exciting. So, and then and then also the announcement for the Free Comic Book Day. I'm honored to be able to have that opportunity. So shout out to Darren. That'll be fun. And then hopefully we can get a lot of early backer support. And then I'm also hoping to partner with Charter Comics for this endeavor. I've spoken with a couple of the guys over there. Shout out Chris Hayes and McLean and all those, and Richard Dury and Carissa and all William Russell. There's a whole collective here at the Charter. Yeah, so I'm hoping to become a part of that soon too. We're working on getting some details ironed out, but maybe End of Man will be the first official partnered project for that.
Charter, that's cool.
Yeah, and you know, hopefully Charter's headed to some cool places, and I'd like to be a part of that. So, especially getting the books distributed across the country would be, even if that's not a huge amount of money, it's just such a great. It would be such a huge accolade, and accomplishment, and exposure just to be able to see them.
And they take all their books with them, which is so cool because. I can't go to all the cons, but Path of the Pale Rider goes to the con in Vegas.
Yeah, that's cool.
To the con in New York. You know what I mean? Because they get tables and they take everything. So I've picked up Kickstarter pledges because people have read issue number 1 and came on for issue 2 and 3. Because Charter is great at what they do. They say, what are you interested in? They have all sorts of stuff, and they kind of listen to what people are interested in and find point. You're a great audience for this one. Awful Thoughts. You would really like this. You know what I mean? So they're great at what they do, and that's why we love them. Yep.
Being Texas based too is awesome too. They're not too far from you, are they? In the Fort Worth?
They're about 4 or 5 minutes. So I'm actually going to be at last time on Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're going to be there too. I saw that announcement. That's great. So they've got.
My buddy, my artist Marco is going to be at Geek Out, which is actually closer to him. And then Paul Gomez will be there, Sam Vera will be there, and a few other artists that I'm not familiar with will all be at Geek Out. And then I'll be at Pastime, Lacey. I'm not sure who else is going to be there. Usually Ken Salinas is there. So there'll be a whole crew of us there. So I was like, go on a road trip, see us all. Burleson and what I always call it wrong. I call it Watuga, but it's Watiga. My sister always corrects me. Where Pastime is. They're not far. They're like 15 minutes away from each other, maybe 20 minutes. So you could actually, if you're in Texas and you're in Fort Worth area, you could come see us all, which would be really cool.
It'll be fun. I'm planning to, once I get things rolling, I think by the summertime when End of Printed and Roseville and Awful Thoughts are already have been printed for a while. I'll be doing the Houston Horror Film Festival. That's a really big thing down here. And I got a table, and I'm going to get my retractable banner and all that cool stuff. And at that point, I'll be ready. That's going to be, they're really cool. It's on my birthday on August 11th through the 13th. So I think it's at the Marriott West Chase. It's out here in Houston, and it's massive. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's basically like the equivalent of Comic Palooza, but for horror culture. I mean,
I probably should sign up for next year.
If you're doing horror
this year, I'm going to be out of town. What's that?
I was going to say, you're doing horror books, so it would definitely be, you could pander to that. There's a huge demographic for horror fans there. So
I just can't do a ton of cons this year. I'm going to be in Michigan for my brother's wedding, and I just got a lot of moving parts. So I didn't get around to signing. And I know a lot of them are already booked. Like Dallas Fan Expo, I'm going to be in Michigan. Marco will be there. But I think next year I could do a lot of cons. We'll have probably 4, maybe 5 books out at that point, and then maybe a trade paperback by next year.
That's my hope too. So we'll partner up, and I'm sure I'll see you around in some places here and there. And I'm going to try to get out on the actual circuit, starting in the fall or 2024 without question. I'm going to try to make that maybe transition into that more so than selling and buying comic books to resell. trying to sell my own stuff more than other people's stuff. Granted, I love buying collections and digging through them and checking and looking at all the cool books. And I never, you know, but man, it's a tough grind. I got to rebag them and assess them and price them and then try to sell them to people, then package them and ship them. And God, it's a lot. So on top of everything else,
I'm really interested in that though. So I'd love to pick your brain more about it after the show, because I've never met anybody that actually does that. So that's why I was like, how do you do it?
Pressing can be stressful too. Ironically, the new books are more dangerous to work on than the older stuff. So
really,
I'm completely
paper,
at home.
different ink.
Yeah, different crap, lower quality paper and ink, mostly on the Marvel books, which are the keys usually that people want. But some of the indie stuff is weird too. And then, but yeah, those are really easy to mess up if you're not careful. So.
That's the last thing you want to do. He sent me your $1,000 comic and I ruined it. Like,
that's the worst. So.
It's a bad day.
Well,
Fortunately,
nothing crazy like that's happened yet.
Say what, Jeff?
I said, fortunately, nothing crazy like that's happened.
Yeah. I want to talk about this.
Oh yeah, Roseville.
This is a amazing cover. I was like, holy moly.
Yeah, that one's really cool, and it's got a really neat story behind it too. So
yeah, I read the beginning. I don't know how much of this one you want me to share.
Oh, you can share as much as I gave you is fine.
Okay, all right. Because I was like, I don't want any spoilers, but I was like, I was like, and then you sent me in more pages, and I was like,
this one's a lot of fun, and just like Awful Thoughts. You know, reading it can be off-putting. Just the covers of this stuff is enough to turn people away. Apparently, I've had some friends and people tell me, like, hey, I want to support your books, but I don't really care for the satanic symbols and all of that.
A fine line. And I run across this as well, because I have symbols built into my world. And my mom was like, I'm building a deck of cards. And she was uncomfortable with the symbols I'm putting on the deck of cards. And I was like, but it's not. I had to explain to her how I came up with those symbols, that they didn't mean what she thought they meant. You know what I mean? But yours are very much what they mean. Like,
more or less. It's not really a satanic cult so much as it is a death cult. But all of the symbolism, you could definitely say, is inspired. You know, it definitely draws inspiration from every walk of that evil, you know, side of things in that regard. So this is a really cool story though, and a project. I wanted to do a horror story after Awful Thoughts. I was just like, man, this is whenever I was starting to regroup and restructure everything. And this, my buddy introduced me to this artist, and his name's Aaron Moran, and he's a UK guy. And he had a picture of that pig man that I used in my Awful Thoughts book, but that was never meant to be what that was. I kind of just used that as inspiration because I liked that art and I wanted to use it as a cover or something. And he said, yeah, man, go for it. And so I was like, oh, cool, this guy's awesome. So we started off on a good foot like that. And I printed some of those, and then we decided to get this done. That cover, that red cover that you showed earlier.
Yeah.
It was actually meant to be used for Birds of a Feather for a Dia de los Muertos type of concept. And it didn't quite look like what I was looking for, more of a bruja, or like the bones painted, the face painted skull candy types, candy skull stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And it just didn't, I was like, man, that's wicked, dude. But it's just not going to work for what we need it for.
No, so this is perfect. It's almost like it was made for this.
Yeah. So I got the idea, and I was like, okay, here's my idea. What do I want to do? I know I want to combine elements of all my favorite stuff. So I got like Resident Evil influence, Silent Hill, House of a Thousand Corpses, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all sorts of good ones. Yeah, all sorts of cool stuff, and like a good just Southern fried, dark, twisted tale of survival horror, basically. So Alex Brenner is an environmental engineer, and he has to go out and fill in for a couple of weeks at a remote station in a small Georgia town called Roseville. It's kind of in the shadow of Decatur. And so he leaves his family and heads up there. And he's warned that the town is a little strange. He picks up the vibes, just kind of to mind his own business, but ultimately he does not, and then that's what creates this crazy rabbit hole.
Ultimately does not. This is like the beginning of every 80s freaking
Yeah,
horror
so this is
film,
great. You know,
right?
in
Where
the
it's just like
in the
boobs. Boobs are
car.
the reason we're here, and boobs is
Yep.
what's getting you in trouble.
Yep, in the car, you know, guys always falling for the cleavage and the sweet nothings and stuff. So yeah, this
She's
girl,
like, do you like what you see? I was like, oh, he's so gonna die.
this girl here is Erin Avery, and she's one of the she's a bad number. So she's got this guy in this car, and she's bringing him back to her house for like a one night stand.
Yeah.
And everything seems to be going fine and well, you know. They make their way on.
But
in the
I
house.
love your writing here, where it's like it's very obvious to the reader what's happening, but this man is just clueless. And then you get to this like dilapidated house, and you're like, oh, why are you so? Well, that's right. You're not thinking with the right brain right now.
Exactly.
And then she's like, if you don't like this room, wait till you see the basement. And everybody's like, don't go in the basement, right? That horror movie, like, don't go. But of course he does. And then it's book, like, well, yeah, she disappears.
Each page is like dripping with foreshadowing for the next one.
It's so great. It's just like you can see what's happening, and
and so
like, who the heck are you guys? Where's the boobs?
Takes him into that room,
like, ooh,
basically sets him up. Yeah. And these guys come and take him away. He can't really get away or do anything, and he realizes that something terrible is happening. And they escort him downstairs to the basement, and that's where he discovers this dark altar type of church type of place. And there's these hooded figures that look like cultists, and there's strange demonic satanic symbolism all over the place. And the main one, it looks like he's got this ram skull, and it's dripping with blood. And he says this guy's going to join the choir. And so they open that door there, that metal door.
Do it.
Yeah, slide the door back, and it opens a gate, and then they push him forward in the gate, force him at gunpoint to go into this labyrinthian maze. There's actually a ceiling on it. We just wanted to show the reader that he's going into this like very intricately carved out like labyrinth that's beneath the house in the red clay of Georgia. And so he's walking in. They give him a torch. They don't want to leave him, make him totally pitch black and stuff. So they give him a torch, let him kind of navigate through these tunnels, and he instantly starts seeing that there's death and decay. It smells terrible. And after bending around the corner for quite a ways, for a few minutes, he comes across this room that's got a hole in the ceiling cut out. It's a vaulted ceiling compared to the other rooms, and it's got a hole cut out, and it looks like some kind of chute for bodies and corpses. And so it's all stacked up, piled pretty high. You can tell these people have been pretty active. And then there's other living cannibalistic people that you can only be led to assume are like he was, maybe, or it looks like these people have just somehow they've been down there trapped too, and they managed to survive by feeding on other people. And it looks like maybe this is the choir. It looks like that maybe he's
and I was like, how dare you not, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't give me any more pages after this, and I was like, God damn it. Like,
I only gave you 6 pages.
This is the perfect spot to leave somebody hanging, because you're like, I need to know, are those people friendly? Are they going to try and talk to him? Are they going to adopt him? Is he going to turn into them, or are they going to eat him? Like, so many things could happen. But I love how it's like, when the door opens, you're expecting there to be like King Kong or like just anything behind there. And it's even worse when it's like, no, you just have to go in and walk around. Like, good luck. Give him a torch so he can see how terrible it is.
Exactly. Like, just to show you how awful it's going to be. So yeah, it's a lot. It's
great storytelling.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm really excited. Aaron's art is incredible. He's got these weird elements of like surreal and abstract stuff that can look very simplistic in their shapes and stuff, and then other stuff like this hyper real look is like transposed or done on others, and his process is really cool. He doesn't give me sketches, so we have to get it right usually when I'm explaining the descriptive narrative. And 9 times out of 10, there's been very few little subtle changes he's had to make, but he's just knocked it out of the park. And he just gave me page 22. We're almost there, and page 22 just looks so fantastic. I'm so excited about it. That's the one I think I sent you a message of that one the other day.
Yeah.
And he hasn't put the border on it with he did these cool little paint splash effects on the outsides of his borders, but I don't want Comics Wellspring or to the printing company to make that look too weird. So I extended the borders by a decent amount to where you'll still get some white border, I think, outside of the page splash.
Okay.
So
I like how it's like the blood from the scene drips down the side of the panel. Is really
pretty
nice
cool.
touch.
Yeah, he's done really well with all of that, and the artwork's a lot of fun. But yeah, so this is Roseville, and it's cool. It's dark, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited to do that. We're hopefully 6 issues for this one. I think is about as long as I'll need to tell the story, and it's a wild ride. It'll be really cool. It's neat to be able to focus on just one crazy story instead of trying to divide it up into multiple little short stories, which is like, those are fun, but you have to jam pack so much in so little space that you can't really tell. The story can't really be very well expanded upon like you can here. So, and even in this story, we tend to move a little quick. I try to not focus on anything that doesn't need focusing on. I try to not dwell on that too much. I like to get to the point, and so it's a lot of fun. You get a lot of action for the first 8 pages or so, and then you get into some context, and you get to meet Alex. You get to meet Alex. You get to meet Alex. He's the main protagonist, and then you kind of take you into that story and see what comes from there. And,
Jeff, hold on a second. Jeff, meet Jeff. Sure. Jeff Muth. This is Jeff Cotton, and
hello, Jeff.
He's the writer-creator of several ongoing series right now, but this is called Roseville. I knew you would like this one. I'm glad that you chimed in because this is really cool. So this is Roseville.
That's cover A.
Psychological and straight-on horror. But look at these covers, man. These are right up your alley. Just beautiful artwork. The storytelling is great. It's like there's some real creepy images, and then of course this guy ends up getting shoved into a labyrinth full of other people that are eating people. So it's a good time. Yeah. And those covers are badass.
There's a couple more, but I just didn't want to show them because they were like exclusives. I didn't want to bog you down too much. But there was a Kickstarter exclusive that's neat. It's got this zombified looking kind of cannibal corpse, ghosty kind of looking guy that's kind of reaching his hand out at the camera. And I might have some more of those whenever this book prints very soon.
So this one is printing shortly, correct?
Yeah, it's almost ready. Aaron's kind of Aaron is wrapping up the last couple of pages now, so it's taking a little bit longer. But that's fine if we want it to be done right. I don't want to rush anything out, and I try to communicate and be as visible and transparent with all of my supporters and backers as possible. So even if anything ever does run a little longer, you guys feel free to just holler at me and let me know if I'm not being clear about how the process is moving along. So, but yeah, it's coming along. And I also a buddy of mine named Brian Pilling that has I believe it's online comic shop. I don't think he's got a brick and mortar yet, but he might be going there. Killer Pill Comics, and he did an exclusive cover. This one actually has an exclusive, and it's got like a little burning doll on it. It's like a little doll like in a conflagration of fire. It's really cool looking, and it's got like a purple border on it. And I'll show you those later. I didn't want to just weigh you down with too much. And
man,
so this one's a lot of fun.
I love it. Jeff Muth, you also, I like the pun. I encourage the pun. This shit is wicked. It's very funny. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sure. Good times. Yeah, just amazing art. When I was like, we're going to save this one for last. Wow. Just amazing.
What I wanted to do was I was heavily inspired to do a story with an artist that could do something like Martin Simmons or the early Sandman stuff. That Neil Gaiman and the Martin Simmons, artist from Department of Truth. He does some really cool like abstract stuff. It's kind of hard to follow, like to read sometimes for me personally, the way Tinian lettered it or the way it's written, but the artwork is just insanely cool to look at. And so I wanted to find somebody that could kind of give me that vibe, because I think it'll complement this story really well. This story has a few bright spots in it, and it's got some hopeful moments, but a lot of it is just suffocating, like horror. I like to call it survival horror, like what you like the video game genre, because it's so heavily inspired by Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil number 4 in particular. And so but yeah, I like to call it like a survival horror comic. It'll be, and I'm trying to pace it that way too, though, to where it would kind of read like a video game would play. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Jeff, you're funny. Your art is amazing already, but he's just like, man, I gotta do better. This Jeff, have you ever thought about doing like a choose your own adventure horror based story?
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I think I saw where you did one, right?
I did, but it's like I want to bring them back. Let's do them.
Yeah, man. When I was a kid, man, those were just so great. And there's that was another thing that heavily inspired me. And they probably traumatized us as children, but the scary stories to tell in the dark books. The artwork on those.
All the art on the scary stories with the head with the red nose and the pipes.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, the artwork is creepy on those books, man. And some of the stories were very disturbing and dark too. They were fun. Like Guillermo del Toro, I think Guillermo del Toro did he redid a movie for that, but I've never seen it. But yeah, but that choose your own adventure,
like every Guillermo del Toro movie is.
yeah, he's great. I love him. The choose your own adventure books were awesome. I remember going to Bookstop and picking them out, and they've actually come back, and that aesthetic has gotten popular again with the whole board. They do it on video games and comic books and board games now, and they've even got I think like choose your own adventure board game type deals now, or card games or
adventure websites, so you could go there and pick like a storyline and then click around. There's one of them where it was solving riddles, where it was like you're in a room and there's a radio and you had to like use your mouse to manipulate the radio to change the frequency, and once you got it to the right channel, it would talk and it would give you hints of how to get out of the room. It was really cool.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm totally down to try to work on something like that though. I know it would entail a little more, but basically just kind of map out a story and set it up with multiple outcomes potentially, and then just kind of work your pages accordingly, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I did it a couple different ways, and one way worked better than the other. And it was like actually create. I use Procreate when I'm working on lettering and whatever. But it's like, so I'll get all the pages set up first, and I'll put in like this stupid stuff like the page numbers, and you know what I mean? Because it'll just help when you're like, okay, I'm on page 2. They get 3 options. And it's like, run out the door, pay the bartender, or go to the bounty board. You know what I mean? So they get 3 choices. And it's like, this one goes to page 3, this one goes to page 4, this one goes to page 5. And then immediately go and put those titles on the top of the page. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that way you're mapping it correctly. But I did a lot of like brainstorming bubbles where it's like, okay, they can do bounties. There's 3 bounties. This bounty over here takes you to Jane Doe. There's 3 options to battle Jane Doe. Only one of them takes you successfully back, but it's like what happens at the other 2. So it's like trying to map out where you want the story to go, I think was the messiest part. Once you figured out like how many pages and where, like I had like a halfway point where you ended up back at a saloon, and then after that you took off again. So it's like mapping out the second half. But once you get all the storyline set, then it was like, okay, make sure the pages are going where they're supposed to. But even then, my editor was like, you have a page that goes nowhere. And I'm like, great.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, page 14, you went to page 14 and it was something completely wrong. And I was like, how do I fix that? So,
make it a dead end. You disintegrate.
Like, I'll just kill him on that page then. Then you don't have to worry about trying to afford it, because it's like, Because when you get the 3 options and it's like 14, 15, 16, but then like instead of 14, 15, 16, it's like 14, 15, and like 37. It's like then it doesn't. Then you're going back, and it's just messy. So I was like, all right, we'll just kill him on that one. Sorry.
Yeah, that'd be a fun idea to mess around with, though. That'd be cool.
It's
there was
fun, and I encourage my readers to lose. You know what I mean? Because there's a couple paths that will take you to the end of the book where you win, quote unquote. But there's so many other things that you miss if you don't go back
alternate
and
outcomes. Yeah, little stuff like that. They've done that in video games a lot more recently, where you can have alternate endings, and if you don't do this or do that, you know, it leads to that route, and it's a lot of fun. And it all started there with those books and stories. So
yeah,
I'm all for keeping that alive, however we can.
I did one. I'm probably gearing up to do a second one at some point in a different time, because my story it is not told linear fashion. So we start in the future, and then we jump back to the past, and then we kind of like the series will catch you up to where we left off. So since we're back in time, I was like, this would be a great place to do another choose your own adventure, right? Because now we're tackling a whole nother sort of problems because we're in the past. So that'd be a great time to do another one, but it won't come out with probably either one of 3 or 4. I don't know.
It's
we'll
like a side
another like time commitment and then financial, because it's like there's a cover and then there's interior art. So I'm paying that in addition to trying to fund the other, you know what I mean? So it's just, I overdid it with my last campaign because I got ambitious. And I was like, I want to do this. So I threw it in there in the same campaign, but I really should have done it separately.
Yeah.
Learn from your mistakes, people. I'm talking to you, watchers.
It'll work
but
itself
it was a lot
out.
of fun. I hope people continue to get it. And the cool part is it can be like an add-on for every campaign that I do. People can still have that option to get that choose your own adventure.
Right. Whenever you get the time, I'm sure you'll be able to explore that again and have some success with it as well. So and then you can stack them. You can have multiple add-ons with the built-in. You know, get all 3 choose your own adventures. Yada yada yada. You know, as you get further along. So it all just continues
with
to
them yet. So I'm interested to see how it'll do on the table. Because when I talk about it, people are always interested, but to have it like available on that day would be interesting. We'll see how it does.
Yeah, play it by ear.
Yeah.
If you're like me, I'm always looking for creative new ways and ideas to present the story and the stuff to people. So, you know.
Well, I let people play the choose your own adventure, and now they are demanding a D&D game.
Nice. That's what I was going to say. It sounds like it's heavily inspired by D&D, of which I'm also a huge fan. I think D&D helped me become the writer that I am today. I think it's given me the kind of the ability to kind of world build and kind of create and plan better than I ever did when I was just writing creatively, you know, a decade ago or whatever, you know. So
no, I've never
been a big part.
So this year, I play on Fridays with the Madness. We have what is it called? Tomb of Annihilation. It's the one where
that's
it's
a good
like,
one.
Yeah, where there's like giant bugs and dinosaurs and diseases, and it's a great place. And my DM keeps trying to kill me in every encounter because I'm the cleric. He's like, "Give me cleric," and I'm like, "Great." But it's interesting, you know, walking around in a place and like having your decisions have consequences in a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
It's interesting. So, but that's where that came from. Where like we were doing the choose your own adventure story, and I offer like I think you could purchase like a couple weapons. It's like you start with a pocket knife, but they can either purchase a rifle or a taser. And one of the people who was Pops that was on playing it, and he was like, "I want a katana," and I was like, you got 3 options. Like, it's like there is no katana. He was like, I bet you I could beat him if I had a katana. He died, and then he was mad because he wanted the katana. And he said he would have beat him, and I was like, do that? You know. So he's like, that's it. I need a D&D so I can go battle him again and use the katana. I was like, all right, I don't know how to do that. Because I'm a noob. How long have you played D&D for?
I guess it's been about 3 years now.
Okay.
And, I've played with a home group and then Yeah, I played with a home group for about 3 years, and then I branched out and got so into it that I started doing it like dungeon mastering myself and doing it for other groups. And then I also crafted my own terrain and dice trays and painted them like the miniatures. And I got into it. I made these whole little worlds that they weren't nearly as involved or detailed or as some of these guys can do with the stuff I've seen nowadays. Like, it's awesome. But I tried to build I like to have the visual aids and that instead of just being on a flat, dry erase board, or like a basic map, no map at all. And the theater of the mind is great. It's fun and we can do it, but I like to have that actual visual representation and know where my character is at, how many feet away they are, and different stuff like that. Because D&D is such a numbers based game. It's kind of hard to take. You take away that whenever you're hope people will just use their imagination to or where am I, and it just kind of creates more issues. And I like seeing it, and so but it's just so much fun to play, especially with people that have experience. And you really just let the dice determine what happens, really, unless somebody is just really overstepping their boundaries. But try to have fun with it. And D&D should be humorous. I saw people, the few criticisms I saw for the new D&D movie was that it was too zany and too funny, like an MCU movie. It's like, you would not believe how much comic relief is in one session of our D&D games. And that's just one game and thousands that are going on every day that have all sorts of hilarious hijinks constantly going on.
You're like, people would like to seduce the dragon. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Those are some of the best moments. And so, and so D&D, I'd encourage anybody that's curious or on the fence is to go out there and try to find a group and have fun and play. It'll bring you out of your shell if you're shy, or if you're looking for creative inspiration and how to world build, and if you're looking for just people to hang out with or be a part of something, man. All these a lot of comic shops have had to sort of evolve since COVID, and they've turned into gaming places now too. And they offer safe and supportive communities for people that want to do anything from Pokemon and Magic the Gathering to D&D and all subcategories of that. So Warhammer is cool. Those skirmishes, though, they're really expansive, and then the pieces are expensive, but they're so cool when you see like those Warhammer pieces all fully painted and decked out. They're neat. So I want to do something.
A whole another subclass of like gaming, and you know what I mean? It's the model making and the painting.
Yeah, there's a whole deal to it.
Kingdom Death Monster.
Yeah.
Ever heard of that one? It was a Kickstarter. It's insane. You start role playing in this game as a naked person with a shard of clay and a lamp. Like, you get no armor, and you start the game fighting a lion.
Fighting a lion?
A lion with no armor, no clothing, and a shard of clay. Like, you have like a broken dish. That's your weapon. And you guys have to work together to battle this. That's how you start the game. Like, you can die in the first encounter. It happens all the time. And they just have insane creatures. There's an antelope that's like, its chest opens up so you can see all the ribs, but it's covered in teeth. The artist is really bizarre. Everything has hands on it.
Yeah.
These little tiny like hands and fingers like coming out of mouths, and like there's this the phoenix. I built this giant crazy looking bird, huge wings, and like the feathers have fingers sticking out, and like it's the craziest, creepy. Love it. You know what I mean? I'm too intimidated to paint some of these things because I'm a noob when it comes to model painting, but I'm sure those would be so much fun. They have like trees that'll eat people. There's one that's called Gorm. It looks like a caterpillar with legs, and it has like a baby face. Bizarre. It has like an anglerfish thing sticking out of its head. Weird. It's weird, but so much fun. Yeah, Kingdom Death Monster. And they made millions of dollars on that, making that game. It was just nuts.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are a lot of fun. And again, D&D is just great. I'd like to do at some point, maybe along the way, I'll do a D&D type of comic. I thought, like a dark fantasy. I built out this little world that I was doing my homebrew campaigns for D&D with. And I think I might kind of I might try to do something like, corral that a little bit and make it like a self-contained story, like a hero's journey type of deal, maybe. And we'll see. It's, for now, I want to focus on what I've got going on. And I think I've got enough. I wanted to get 2 or 3 books and just really fine tune those and make them as the best I possibly could. And then from there, explore, subsequent issues or another new projects and stuff, so.
Yeah. And I'm always looking to expand into a new experience for my fan base as well, because they already get like the riddles and they get the short films. I'm trying to teach myself some basic animation so we can maybe go that way. I'm going to be producing a podcast. It'll be like a radio show. It's going to be a limited number. I'm not going to like have an ongoing thing. I just can't handle another ongoing thing. But I wanted it to be like a radio show. Like it's cop buddy drama, but dark humor. So in my world, we have we have a police force that's called the Collectors, and they go around and they collect all these undead people and they ship them off to this retirement community, right? And no one really knows what it is. So I wanted to have like a buddy cop drama with these 2 guys who are collectors. So they're having like, it's comedic. They're played between the 2 of them, but like what they're doing is dark. Like they're going to pick up like undead grandma and dragging her out of her house. You know what I mean? Like it's upsetting. So I wanted to do like 6 episodes of that. So I have my hands working on that, and it's just like, how many hats do you have to wear today as a creator?
Right.
Because it's like I'm still writing my series. I'm pretty far ahead though. I'm on like issue 26, I want to say. No, 23. I'm 23 issues in. But it's like then there's marketing, managing artist, financial hat, Kickstartering, social media.
It's hard. If you're like me, and once you start creating stuff, it's kind of hard to put it back in the box, like once you get one and you get a taste for it and you realize that it's something tangible, realistic, possible, no matter how confident you are, once you get that little spark, that little ember, then it's kind of just explodes into this deal, and then one day you look up and you're like, oh shit, I'm doing way too much right now. Like I haven't slept in 2 days. I've got way too much monster energy in me, yada yada yada, but you look up one day and it's you got stuff going on all over the place. And I think that happened to me last year, and I was able, you can get burnout and stuff, and then you just kind of got to recalibrate and figure out what's most important and you can, once you have more experience, you can figure out where your resources are best allocated and where you're including your time, not just your money, but how to most effectively spend your time in any facet in life. But with comic book stuff, like being as involved as we are in creators and stuff, and taking on so much responsibility, like lettering and writing and coordinating and all that, that's not even the financial side of it. You got to work hard to make the money, to pump the money into it, but yeah, when it's nice to kind of pump the brakes and to just look at it around and see, okay, what really matters the most right now. And then sometimes that can be quantified into just daily, like, okay, but I like to do it like by the week. I like, okay, this and this and this needs to happen this week. And then this and this and this is ancillary, but this and this have to happen. You know what I mean? And so we kind of plan accordingly, and then hopefully everything will take care of itself. And usually it does, but man, it's sometimes it's a little overwhelming sometimes though.
Sometimes you just have to be fluid and adjust. Like I have no control. Like we're having some work done on the house and that needed to have permits. Right. So they got the permits and they're going to be at our house this week, Wednesday and Thursday. And I don't have electricity those days. So I'm not going to be editing my short film, which is what I had planned on doing this week. But so then it's like, okay, well then I need to spend my time doing something else, fill in and then reshuffle and switch the calendar around so that way I'm still being productive. But
early on as when I was getting going with all of this, especially in the creation side of the business, I was trying to be controlling of everything. and it can create, you know, rifts and stuff, especially when you're in the creative sector, you know. But even like with buyers and like PayPal and expecting people to pay you for books you sold like on a certain time, and then just expecting and trying to control and manipulate everything to work the way you want, just never really works out, you know. And so the more you learn to kind of just ease up and just kind of go with the flow and be fluid. And I'm a big proponent of right and left hemisphere brain chemistry, trying to get that synchronized. I think that's a very real thing. And so when you're synced up, I think you can be a lot more fluid and flexible and understanding that there are a lot of external forces always trying to disrupt you, you know what I mean, and play a part in that spectacle. So once you kind of realized, like, you know, like Jesus on the boat during the storm, when he's just kind of really calm, you know, it's a great parable for that. And he's just, everything's around him, he's just like totally chill, like, dude, it's okay, it'd be all right. You know, he's telling everybody it's okay. So I kind of always try to revert to that. And there's sometimes I'll get worked up and excitable and angry, but it's just never productive, you know. And so learning to be fluid and flexible has really helped me to do more with creating, even, you know, like everything kind of comes a little more naturally and a little quicker now that whenever I know what I'm locked in and focused on. So nothing is as intimidating. It's just, there's a lot to consider, you know.
You know, and I think along the lines of trying to stay calm and going with the flow, I think community plays a big part in that. When you're new and you don't have a support team, it's real easy to be anxious, to not, you know, to be upset that you don't know what's going on. Try to, like you said, try to control everything. And really cause a lot of headaches in your own life. But now I think where I'm at, I have, you know, the zombie bros and like Carissa, who I talk to all the time, and like Charter Comics, where I'm like, something happened in my Kickstarter and I'm freaking out because someone canceled, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh no. And they're just like, look at the big picture. You're fine. And then it's like, so that outside source of being like, you get so tunnel vision and hyper focused on one little aspect of what's going on. But really the big picture is you're still got enough time to recap that $100 that someone canceled. You know what I mean? So if you just keep going and stay positive and stay on your path, things will be fine. And they are, but you sometimes need that support system to help you focus on what's important and to stay positive.
That's where I'm at right now.
I'm happy to do that for other people as well. You know, it's like Carissa, I just finished my Kickstarter and she launched, you know, 2 days before I was done. So it's like, now we switched hats, where she's Kickstartering and I'm the one providing her support. Like, it's going to be okay. Let's just keep plodding along. Let's find another solution. You know, what she was doing for me, you know, when I hit that plateau and I was like, it's not moving. Like,
it gets stagnant.
But that's normal for a Kickstarter, where it's like, it takes off and then it kind of like there's like usually 1 or 2 days, maybe 3 days where there's nothing. And then it starts picking up and it'll move again. But you just kind of, when you're in it, it's always like, I'm doing something wrong. People don't like me. And it's like, you're internalizing the Kickstarter and the activity when really it's normal, you know? So helping each other get through that is important as well.
Yep, I agree. So, but I'm super excited to get the End of Man page launched. I just need to make sure everything is okay with the previous Kickstarter before I can move forward with that. And I need to get the digital version of Awful Thoughts ready, I think, at the very least, because Kickstarter will typically want you to close out the previous one before you can launch another one. So
typically, like ours, we had a print issue. It was it's a whole big debacle, but we had sent out everybody the PDF copies, so everybody knew the book was done, and we were waiting forever for the print job. So Kickstarter approved the next one. And I was actually able to, this was a nightmare, Jeff. I highly never recommend, no stars, would not recommend running a Kickstarter and fulfilling the one before it at the same time. I never want to do that again.
I'm roughly in that position right now. I've got the financial stuff okay, so that's the most stressful part. That's fine. But now it's just like, I know apprehension can start to set in the longer things take. And when people see that other stuff's going on, they're like, well, hey, where's my book from April or whatever, you know, or yada, yada, yada. So, but I'm really close. I think I'll be able to get these the horror books almost printed back to back nearly. And this is the first time I've worked with multiple companies on different like swag merchandise. I've
Yeah.
already got the t-shirts ordered for Awful Thoughts, and I paid a little bit more to get screen printed, hopefully
Cool.
thicker looking nice shirts. So they're a little bigger, and just in case anybody ordered a large, I'll just reimburse them or let them get a credit for another shirt that I make later on. But I wanted to do a test run with this company, and then I've got another sticker company I need to get with, and then but yeah, even the metal covers, they have to go to a different company than Comics Wellspring, who does most of my printing right now.
Right.
And so it's just a process, but as long as you let everybody know what's going on and try to just do your best to communicate and to stay active and be productive, because like you said, some of this stuff's just beyond the control. Like and I don't want to blame anybody else, but certain things,
right, I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want to point fingers, but it's not anything I can fix myself. Like,
what I've had to learn and tell myself is that, look, man, if you want to have something really nice, tangible, professional looking product that could set on the shelf next to a Marvel or a DC or any Image book or whatever, and really hold its own and actually draw interest people, that needs to take time and be done the right way. It can't be forced. So even if I think I'm ready, I still want to go back and look at it 4 or 5 more times, because that way the people that have paid for it and supported it, not only am I going to get that sense of satisfaction and validation, but the people that read it are going to see it in there. They're going to be like, man, that is a well put together book. It might not be the best looking thing, but it's going to look damn good. You know what I mean? And it's going to be able to be considered, in my opinion,
want it to be the best version of itself.
Yes. That, like we talked about with the sculpture, it just needs to be the most finely chiseled, best polished. That's all I can deliver, and I think that'll be enough though to make people happy and to be.
But I think people are happy. I mean, for myself, like when we were having that print issue, I was like, guys, I'm like, you tell me. I'm like, I've postponed the next Kickstarter twice. I was like, if we keep postponing it, we're not going to be able to run another Kickstarter before the end of the year. We might be stuck, and then we'll have problems. If you want, I will launch. And just know that I will fulfill your books. I'm just waiting for them. Everybody's gotten the PDF. Everybody knows the book has been done. But if you guys are ready for me to launch, I'll launch. And the overwhelming response was, let's go launch it. We want to go. Yeah. So
I think so. You got, people will come and go, and some people that could be for a variety of reasons. But ultimately, I think, so long again, if you're talking to people, and I'm sure you've got, just like me, you've got some diehard supporters out there that will help you out no matter what, that just want to see you succeed, that could care less if Path of the Pale Rider is even entertaining for them. They just want to help you. You know what I mean? And so, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to enjoy the book and everything you're doing, obviously. But
like my mother-in-law, this isn't really her thing, but she likes when I succeed.
Right.
People like Undead Bears, no?
So, but and then there are people. The better one is the group of people that you bring in that do like what you do, and that do want to see you succeed, because then they'll just continue to support and help you get through it. I've noticed that for myself. So now I just want to continue to not. But so you don't want to leave those kind of people behind or hanging out to dry, though. So it's a very challenging balance there if you're trying to move forward with multiple projects. And so I'm kind of tiptoeing that line right now, but everything's okay. It's taking a little longer to get stuff done, but I know that my financial stuff is there, and that's the most stressful and anxiety inducing part of it to me, is knowing that I might not, I got to get this, done and this done, because right now, with being where I'm at lettering, my ability, I think I'm very comfortable with the page will get done. It'll look good. They'll be happy. You know what I mean? Right. Whereas in the past, it's like, oh God, I don't know if this is going to be, if this speech bubble's in the right place, or if they're going to be able to understand this, and yada, yada, yada. And now it's moving forward, full steam ahead, full confidence in my ability.
Right.
That alleviates a lot of it.
And it's like every time you do it, you get better. So it's like when we did issue 1, we were like, wow, like I'm really impressed with how great we did issue 1, right? And then you get to issue 2 and you look back at issue 1, you're like, this one's way better.
Yeah.
So it's always like striving to improve. And it's great because not only will you be able to see it, but the viewers will be able to come along for that journey as well, which is really what we need, because my story, obviously, when it's like you can't give away all the secrets, right? So the further we get in the story, the crazier it gets. So it's great that, you start in the beginning. We had a pretty crazy issue 1, but it gets crazier. So it's like, we're going to be pushing ourselves story-wise, art-wise, formatting-wise. It's all going to grow, which is what you need it to do as the story grows with it. You know what I mean? So it's great to be able to have that experience and learn from it, and then apply your new knowledge to the next one and keep going.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's funny to see how you've grown. I'm sure you can attest to that. Like from issue 1 to where you're at now, it's like, wow, it's like, you could argue it's like night and day for me personally, at least. I'm just like, man, it's crazy how much different it looks. Not to say that the original early products were bad or anything, but they're just drastically different, and it's cool to see that evolution, and to know that things are promising on that side, that you're not just going to be, kind of feeling like inferior from a lettering standpoint or a writing or an art standpoint. When all that's clicking and you've got something cool, then I think people are willing to be patient, and they'll understand if it takes a little longer, as long as you just don't completely abandon them and stuff.
God. But that happens sometimes. There's people like, I've waited 2 years and this book is still not here, and I'm like, that's a long time.
I've seen people on Facebook posting about they've supported this guy or that guy, and they haven't gotten anything in over a year, yada, yada, yada. So
that's terrible.
Bad juju.
But
anyways,
it's everybody's nightmare. Like, please don't crash and burn.
I'd imagine that the really big companies can be dangerous for those like investments in like movie productions and video games and stuff, like board games, where those guys get like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. There's a lot riding on those. You know what I mean? It's not just a little comic book for 10 or 20 or $50 even. It's you might dump $1,000 into somebody and they don't ever even do anything with it. It's like, oh, well, that's great. I'll never do that again.
Right.
So,
it's hard. It's hard. But I don't know. Maybe we're lucky we're not there yet. It's like $10,000 on my Kickstarter. It might change a little bit. You know what I mean? Because when you start getting that many backers, it's like, okay, I probably need to I start having someone else fulfill this for me when there's that many moving parts. So, we're not quite there yet, but we're close. So having to delegate things is scary to me, because I like to be in control, so I know that it's done right and my people are being taken care of. So delegating to me is kind of scary, but we'll have to do it. We'll have to.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be a good problem to have. Hopefully I've got a friend of mine that did his first successful Kickstarter, and he went out and got a pretty well-known group of guys. I think, I can't remember. It sounds I don't want to say his name or put anybody out there.
No, let's not.
I can't remember. Yeah, and I don't know the facts 100% surrounding the project. So just for lack of doing that, but he's reached out to me a couple of times and asked me questions about printing and shipping and stuff. And he did his project. He did like, man, I think he did like, I don't know, a couple thousand books or something. I don't like almost 300 backers, I think, or something. Wow. Like, that's like a lot of people, man. So he's trying to like keep track of it, and he's got like international people, and so he's asking me about like shipping rates, and I don't really know a whole lot, but I was happy for him. But I can tell that he's a little stressed out. But and they used a company called Backer Kit that was really cool. They have to approve you, I think, but then they'll handle all of your like suggestive selling for add-ons and streamline that part of the process. But I don't know much beyond that. But he looked like, again, it's a good problem to have. He's got a really cool product, but he seemed like he was a little up against it. This was his first time doing it, and it's a lot to take. My first one, I had 100 backers on the first Awful Thoughts, and it just felt like I was up against. It felt like it was going to take forever, but I got through it. But man, I could imagine having 3 times that many. It was be like, wow, you got to have somebody helping you box them up or doing something. All hands on deck for those.
Yeah, I still like doing it because I usually do something a little extra and it makes sure everybody gets something. Or I do really unique thank you cards. A lot of them have like wax stamping or blacklight messages, or I think this last one had Morse code in the
really?
Note, so
cool.
Me and riddles. I like, but you know what I mean? Like I that's just easy for me to be able to handle all that stuff when there's I'm doing it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And you know that everybody's getting what, hopefully,
what they're supposed
as long
to.
as you're paying attention and stuff, everybody should get what they need. And you might have some
Right.
hiccups along the way, but at least you know that you control that, and that if something does go bad, it's on you and you can fix it.
Right. Or it's not like, please talk to so-and-so's customer support, and then people are mad. Right. You know what, though? We are heading towards the end of the show. Let's wrap it up here. Jeofrey, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? I know we talked about Free Comic Book Day coming up, so remind everybody where you're going to be, your socials, what Kickstarters are coming out. Let's just give a good reminder here at the end.
All right. So on Facebook, there's it's Keyngdom Comics is the name of my company. It's spelled a little differently though. So
here, I'll drop it in the chat. This is your, we forgot to mention your website.
It's Keynggdom. And you
there
can
it
look
is in the chat, people. That's Jeofrey's website.
Keyngdomcomics.com is the website. There's nothing up there for sale yet. The Awful Thoughts digital version will be the first thing made available, and then from there I'll start. I'm going to revise the page and get it all, kind of give it a facelift. It hasn't really been done too much with lately, but it'll be getting a nice little overhaul. And you can contact me through there if you ever need to. If the other outlets aren't working, just go down to the bottom and send me a message. So very easy there. And I've got the store, and it'll be set up for international shipping and all of that too. So I can't offer anything on Kickstarter yet, international, because I'm just not comfortable yet working in all that, but you can go on there and get it. For Instagram is at Keyngdom Comics again. Twitter is at Keyngdom Comics. I don't use those as much, but I'm going to start getting into that. Facebook is where I'm the most visible. There's a private group where I sell my comics called Keyngdom Comics, and then there's an official page for Keyngdom Comics as well that gets updated. Or you can find me on my personal page. It's Jeofrey Cotton, my name. And other than that, yeah, we're doing Free Comic Book Day on the 6th at the Comics Cafe in Tomball, Texas. I'm sure it'll be starting off, probably in the morning and running all afternoon. And then I've got some conventions coming up, but that's all down the road. So I'll be sure to let everybody know about that. And yeah, just stay in touch, and thank everybody for coming and checking out the show. And Laurie, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was nice talking to you. And
absolutely,
yeah, we'll do more in the future, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're here in Texas. I'm sure our paths will cross at one point. We will get to meet each other, do a con together, hang out with Charter, or whatever it entails. But I look forward to picking your brain on stuff and D&D and world building and all that good, pressing comics and grading comics, all things that I don't have in my little handbook of comic creator skills. So I'm always looking to improve what I know. So I'm always like, pick Jeofrey's brain. But people, thank you for watching. I'm so glad to have indie comic creators on my show, and I get to learn new stuff and talk to new people and make new connections. If you're interested in coming on this show, please let me know, so I can get you up and let people find out who you are, your fan audience as well. Don't forget, Path of the Pill Rider is done Kickstartering. We're going to be doing a victory lap on Indiegogo starting pretty soon. I will share some exclusive covers next week. If you are a backer of Path of the Pale Rider campaign number 3, please check your email. I sent you a link to a Survey Monkey. We'll let you pick out a weapon of fruit destruction, because we're going to be doing the slice and dice eventually. And I want to hear what you think I should be using to smash a watermelon. Rich Perry has suggested a Burmese kitten, a stoplight. What else did he suggest? I forget. But the main choices, someone else said a shotgun, which can't happen. Sorry. Main choices are going to be a sledgehammer, a Filipino short sword, or a cold steel machete. Those are my 3 main options. If you can come up with something that I can actually destroy a watermelon with that I have, I'll take it into consideration. I don't think spatula will cut it. That was the other one Rich suggested. So fun times. So I'm looking forward to that, and you'll be seeing us all very soon. Everybody say goodbye to Jeff.
Bye, guys.
One more time, check out this cover because it's amazing. I love it. Roseville, End of Man, and Awful Thoughts. It's going to be a wild ride. From what I have seen, it's a wild ride. So check out keyngdomcomics.com, and I'll see you all next week. Love you. Bye.
The Mad.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit CB4